Get the coolest mesh online at mesh.alfred.vip.
When I was 17, God spoke to my father for the first time.
I'll go to the Western Cape for 7 days.
Mr. Coughlin.
Can I come with you?
It feels like we're banishing her. They leave their childhood here.
You've been a great comfort to me, Nicholas.
You are a sinful girl. You will kneel here until these candles burn out.
So as I guessed, they're about to make fun of Christianity. And this is the interesting thing. This is why I keep emphasizing the importance of Christians making entertainment. It's very important to get his 7 miles and beyond, because the devil is looking at all these things and using all these things. Anywhere where there isn't light is darkness. If Christians aren't making the movies, if the people who love God aren't making the movies, if the people who want to see the gospel propelled aren't making the movies, then who is making the movies? Those who are against God, those who want an ungodly worldview. You know, there are a lot of people who don't go to church, a lot of people who this is how their perception of Christianity is going to be formed. You know, the demonization on every side, and it's only Christianity they can do this with. They can't make a movie, in spite of the fact there's so much content there. You know, they can't make a movie dissing Islam or dissing Muslims. You know, there's a lot of content there to work with. You know, like, you know, the age of who Prophet Muhammad married, and you know, the area of radical terrorism, why does that always rise out of Islam? You know, all those kinds of things. There are so many things to work with, to criticize or to condemn, but hands off, no one ever touches it. But it's always Christianity that they keep bashing, and we see top actors, you know, doing that. You know, so even the way they presented it at the beginning, I was at this when God first spoke to my father, you know, at the beginning of this trailer. The way they present it is like if he has gone crazy. Then now with the nunnery something, apart from the fact that Catholics are not true Christians, you cannot tell a Christian story, you know, from a Catholic perspective, because Catholics, you know, Catholicism is a deviant version of Christianity. It's completely removed from Christianity. It has nothing to do with relationship. It's all about traditions and rituals that was established by a non-Christian Roman emperor that used to kill Christians. You know, and even it's called Roman Catholic. What does Christianity have to do with Rome? Jesus was not Roman. The apostles were never Roman. Majority of the 12 apostles, to the best of our knowledge, none of them ever went to Rome. None of them established themselves in Rome. Paul was not one of the 12 apostles, and he went to Rome. You know, but the point is that there is nothing in Christianity that should suggest that Christianity should be called Roman Catholic or Roman anything. It's not the Roman thing. But of course, if you have a propaganda and an agenda of colonizing the whole world or conquering the whole world like the Romans had, of course you would want to usurp the trending religion or the powerful religions and, you know, create your own thing. You know, so that's, you know, the reality of the history of the Catholic Church. You know, so even going with that it's crazy, you know. But let's keep watching this trailer.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, sorry.
You know, keeping in mind that they are using the Catholic Church to represent all of Christianity, so even to dissing it in the movie does not work. You know, I would say when we make Christian movies, leave out the Catholic dissing, unless you want to address certain faults, or, you know, you want to talk about changing certain things, because I believe that Catholics themselves, the members of the Catholic Church, should be preached to and should be reached out to with the real gospel. You know, but that being said, in the movies, you know, when the world makes movies and they bring up the Catholic, you know, they are referring to all of Christianity, and to them is the only valid form of Christianity. You know, to a lot of these elite types, that is the only valid one they would recognize when it is not valid at all.
Sorry. I feel something's happening.
Well, that would be probable.
And there is a movement, of Hollywood. Hollywood, when you understand that these producers and these top writers speak together, live together, belong to the same unions, they play golf together, they hang out together, and a lot of them share the same beliefs. Look at the Sinners movie. The Sinners movie was just a diss on Christianity. The whole point of the Sinners movie is Christianity is anti-fun. Christianity is anti-being yourself. Christianity is old-fashioned. Christianity is bad. And it brings to mind the crazy movie that Amber Heard made after the Johnny Depp trial. The whole point of the movie was Christianity is backwards and Christianity holds people down and all that. So the world is preaching a message. They are evangelizing against Christianity through movies, through entertainment. And when you give them power to get into the schools, they do that in the schools and all this. At this rate, with the way schools are being taken over by leftism and anti-God ideologies, better not to even send your kids to school. And we can change anything. Even there are things that people say that and feel that can't be changed, but it can be changed. Anything that man builds, man can destroy. Anything that a man builds, another man can destroy. It's only what God builds that is eternal. So there are people who say things like, and there are two things that I always say in debt and taxes. I don't even talk about the debt aspect in this broadcast. I'll talk about the taxes. The taxes was created by man. Men haven't always paid taxes, and as a matter of fact, when taxes came, it was for the poor. And that is the whole point. The poor paying taxes to the king. And the conquered to show their allegiance. When a people have been conquered by an opposing army or country or nation or city, and the people that are being conquered, to show their allegiance and they are still on board and they are happy, they show their appreciation to the king. That is taxes. Taxes was actually a form of punishment. The reality of the matter is that kings do not need taxes. A nation that needs taxes to survive is structured wrongly. Let me say that again. A nation that needs taxes to survive is structured wrongly. A nation shouldn't need taxes for it to run. If it's dependent on taxes, that is a stupidity. For majority of human history, when you look at kingdoms and kings didn't need the taxes. The kings already owned the land. As a matter of fact, in most nations, it was only the kings and the lords that could own land. Others couldn't. That's why you get the word landlord. Landlord. Landlord came from the fact that yes, you had to be a lord. You had to be part of the, member of courts. You had to be a lord, a knight, or a king to own land. So all of the assets of the nation already belonged to the king. The king did not need taxes. And you must say, okay, what about in a situation where people are allowed to own property? The king still does not need taxes because the king's wealth generates itself. Wealth properly structured generates itself. Money makes money. Money earns money. If the owner of the money is structured properly, it has always been that way. If you use your money to buy liabilities, you use it to buy beer, you use it to buy alcohol, you use it to buy gunpowder, you use it to buy horses or whatever, or things that food, whatever. You are letting it, you are buying something that's, has taken away, has subtracted from you. But you can use that same money to, rather than buying just food, buy a farm. That's an asset. It will keep on bringing money and bringing money. The same money spent. Rather than just buying bread, buy a bakery. And the kings could buy and start these things and own most of these things. And nations also can own assets. And based on the assets that the nation owns, that is generating more money, and part of the money that the asset that the nation generates is used to buy more assets and more assets. The nation does not need taxes to survive. So I said all this to say this. In the same way, now, like people say, two things you cannot escape: debt and taxes. You can earn taxes. Taxes haven't even always been there. So the people themselves can rise up and say, we no longer want to pay taxes. Based on what I've said, we want things to work out. Alfred has said, let the nation own assets that generates income and then reinvest that, and then, from the proceeds of that, the nation splits it two ways. Just the same way with the principle of tithing. The nation uses part of it to help the people, the other part to reinvest and become a wealthier nation. The nation does not need to be a strain on the people. Taxes was created to be a strain on the people. That is why the king put it on the servants and upon a conquered people. As a matter of fact, when you look at Islam, when it grew, during the time of Prophet Muhammad, he put those who did not convert to Islam were forced to pay taxes. That is the reality. Force them to pay taxes. So taxes is a form of subjugating people. It's a form of suppressing people. It's a form of dominance over people. It's a form of restricting people from prospering. It's a form of restricting people from their economic growth. It's a form of punishment. So that is the reality. We can change anything. And we must be honest about this. So some people have been told something for so long they believe it is true. That is not the case, So you can change anything, and we need to change how things operate. We need to come together and say, "Yo, Senator, this is what we want. Yo, President, this is what we want. If you do not do this, we bring you down." And we need to start running. Righteous people have to start running for office and all positions of power, including, like I said, Hollywood. You can see this campaign against Christianity that these folks are on. To demonize Christianity. We need to be on top of it. Let us be the ones running Hollywood and put our own agenda, on top to be pushing things.
You're useless. You're a completely useless man. You know that.
I do.
We see that, and of course, this war against men. The woman, you can imagine a wife telling a husband, "You're a completely useless man." And the man says, "I know, I do, She says, "You're a completely useless man, you know that." And he says, "I do." This is the same thing we see in all new Hollywood movies. The woman is the new man. The head of the family in every new Hollywood movie is the woman. The woman is always the head of the family. And the strongest person in the picture, the lead in the picture, is ridiculous. If someone were to try to destroy a civilization, a human civilization, all the things that will be done is what is done when you look at the West. The West is just, when looked upon from afar, it's just a playbook on how to destroy a human civilization.
I see your face. For the first time in my life, the world makes sense. I closed my eyes and you were here.
You all right there?
Yeah?
Do you need a hand?
Here and not here.
The most beautiful girl in the world. Marry me.
In this world, there's no such thing as chance, Nicholas. You have to meet life.
I love him. For it to last a lifetime, it has to be immense at the start.
Can you post this to her? I'll stay and wait for you.
This is too annoying and boring and painful to watch. It's 0/10 for me. It's nonsense, It's nonsense. I don't know how, perhaps, in the course of the movie itself, that we want to do some things that will not totally castigate, Christianity. But so far, we can see there are a lot of elements so far that are done to throw shots at Christianity and demonize and misrepresent Christianity, So, with that alone, It's terrible. If you make a movie that has any Christian, reference to God, you have to put it in a good light and promote it and show God as the answer, of Christianity as something that helps the character, not something that's, during the relationship between Christianity and the character in the movie didn't help the character, didn't assist the character, but was rather a hindrance. Then even though the whole movie at the end is not about dissing Christianity, at the end you've shown a depiction that the Christianity was irrelevant or it was a hindrance. Even if there may be another antagonist to the protagonist and another villain, there's a villain outside of Christianity. The whole plot, the main antagonist is not Christianity itself or someone from the church, but still in its interaction with the character, you showcase Christianity as a stumbling block, and that's the same kind of thing with Sinners movie. All these things are intentional. They will not do it with LGBT. They are not going to do it in a way that makes someone being gay a liability or it's destroying people's lives, or people converting and becoming trans and all those things, how it destroys people's lives, because in real life it has destroyed many people's lives, even from the stories of people who are still in that LGBTQ lifestyle. But they will never show that on the play, because they know that the purpose of the package of work of the story is not just to entertain, but to program the mind and to paint certain things in certain light. This is good and this is bad, or this is the way to think, or this is acceptable. That is what it is. That is what storytelling is, in Hollywood and novels and all that. So that being said, it's important for us Christians, to take the 7 months and be useful, be relevant in politics, have a voice in politics, speak up. The Christians must be heard, must have their say. Look at how the UK is becoming more and more ungodly. It's because Christians have been silenced. They don't talk. They have been silent and beaten into submission, and they don't realize that majority of the governmental positions are now taken over by foreigners. And that's why, people are wondering, why is there persecution of white people in Europe? Why are they persecuting, the main traditionally white British people in Europe? And it is because of this, because the leaders, the councilmen, all these things are now foreigners, and their loyalties are not to the UK. When somebody immigrates to a new country, and becomes a citizen of that new country, back in the day, the understanding was that person now is loyal to the new country. It was treason to still be loyal to your previous country. But majority of the people who are migrating now, especially now in this mass migration, and clearly those who even migrated then, majority of them still had their loyalty to the previous country they are coming from. So their liability to the new country, their presence in the new country and their activities is only going to destroy the new country, because especially now where we have people who think all white people are racist, but they are migrating to Western societies. So they come in with hatred for Britain. They come in with hatred for white people of Britain, of white people in America and all of that, thinking they are all racist and they are all that. And when they go into the system, they end up becoming the chief of police, captains of police. They end up becoming the politicians. They end up becoming the governors. They end up becoming the prime ministers. And their loyalty is to their home nation, and their enemy is the white man. So it should not surprise anybody why there's so much persecution and so much anti-white people. When there's a riot of immigrants, nothing is done. The police rather comes and then looks for the white person who complains about it and persecutes that person and gives that person 5 months or whatever amount of time in prison. But the immigrants are left, because that is where the loyalty is. Because all the positions of authority are taken over by Indians, Arabs, Muslims, Africans. Those are the people in leadership positions, and their loyalty is to where they come from. And this is another thing why people don't understand tribes and how tribes work. When a lot of people, when someone is part of a tribe, they are loyal to their tribe. It's a matter of birth and blood. But when white people are loyal to white people within one of the different tribes, like whether it is within those who are from Ireland or those who are from this part of the Caucasian world or that other part of Caucasian world, whenever any such thing is done, it's called racism. And white people themselves have bought it and have been indoctrinated from childhood in the school system that it is racism for them to be loyal to their tribes. For white people to be loyal to white people is racism. For white people to unite, anything under the banner of white people is racism. And that is also a chinks in the armor of the West, because now a foreigner can come and use that as racism and fight again and destroy a lot of structures that were pre-existing that actually helped make the West what it is and made it great in the first place. So be wise, and Christians must stand up. White people, if you don't stand up, a time will come where it will be too late, it will be too overrun. And the day that white people become a minority, the silly white people as well as the silly trans people who are doing all this foolishness, the stupid people who are the trans people who are doing gays for Palestine and trans for Palestine, queer for Palestine. When all these people become over 50% or 80%, especially now that white people have been indoctrinated to think that it is moral not to have children, or for them, if they must have, they should now mix their race, all these things. When white people become a minority, how do you think you're going to be treated? The hammer, a great hammer will come down upon you and crush all of you. So that is a reality. But you are sowing the seeds of what is going to come in the future. So it is what it is. Remember to check out Alfred of VIP for more. Thank you and God bless you.
Say this prayer audibly if you have not given your heart to Jesus Christ. Dear God, I believe in my heart that Jesus Christ, the Son of God, came, died, and was raised from the dead to save me. I confess Him, Lord, over my life and ask you to give me your Holy Spirit to live within me. I receive your Spirit by faith and thank you for I am now born again. In Jesus' name, amen. If you just prayed that prayer, congratulations, you're now a Christian. Go to alfred.vip and get resources that will help you with your work with God.